Hi, I'm Gary Null, and this is a continuation of our Classroom on the Air. These are extemporaneous, meaning in the moment, off the top of my head, insights into the human condition on different variety of topics. And today is going to be on how to survive the many different existential threats that we face. For example, you wake up in the morning, take a look around, everything seems okay. Weather might be hot or cold, a little freezing, but you're warm inside. You get down to the store, everything you want is there. Plenty of fruits, vegetables, whatever you want to consume, you're going to have it. You'll go to the internet more often than not, multiple times a day, and you'll check your likes or stories. But what you're not seeing is what could be impacting you. You might see that there's a war in Ukraine. You say, so what? That's in Ukraine. It's not here. And there's some saber rattling with the military industrial complex towards China and Russia, et cetera, Iran. And you think, well, again, that doesn't impact me. And wow, they just had a really cold weekend up in New Hampshire, 108 degrees below zero with the wind chill. That's the coldest day ever recorded in American history. Whoa, what survives at 108 degrees below zero? How about nothing, unless you're underground? A polar bear couldn't survive that. And you think, well, I'm glad I'm not up in New Hampshire in the mountains. That was not at the lower end. I think it was on 12 degrees below zero down at the ground level. But up in the mountains, it's different. And then you hear about all that flooding out in California. Wow, homes being washed away, people died, mudslides, whole roads washed out. And you think, wow. But then again, it could be, instead of the rain and flooding, it could be fires and burning up houses all over the state. A 12-month alarm on fire. Used to have a fire season. Now it's all year. And then you hear about, Lake Mead, and that's the water behind the Hoover Dam. And above Lake Mead, you have Lake Powell. And you think, okay, I hear that we're running out of water there. Within a year to 2 years, we're going to have what is known as a dead pool, meaning there's not enough water coming from the melt-off of the Rocky Mountains into the Colorado, and then into Lake Mead, and then in Lake Powell, to go over the turbines, causing hydroelectric electricity. And 7 million people rely upon it. But 40 million Americans rely upon the water behind that Hoover Dam to live. Manufacturing, farming, and just normal household usages. And yet real close to that, up in Utah, there's a brand new community. It's prospering, and it's not inexpensive. It's not for your working class people because the average home's over $1 million. I think there's something like 12 golf courses there, and they're building another one. But this is in the high desert where there's no water. They're getting out of Lake Powell. What happens when Lake Powell doesn't have any more water to give? And that's occurring now. Well, nobody knows. Well, why would you move to a place knowing that there's a scarcity of resources that you need to make it sustainable? So before we go to what we should do, shouldn't we have a little conversation with ourselves about, do I want to know this? If not, what am I going to do to deny that I'm responsible for the choices of my life if my choices end up causing me to suffer pain? So for all those people who are living in that community in Utah, who want to play golf and want to have the beautiful views of the desert from high up, why would you move to a place without first checking to see? It's no secret. It's everywhere in the news out there that the little Colorado is not having the same rainfall, same melt off, and hence it's going to become a dead zone. So all those people in Phoenix, Arizona, in Las Vegas, Nevada, and all those communities, they're in for a lot of trouble. But what has been done to prevent that? How about nothing? So then you have to ask, why in America have we gotten to a place where we're not paying attention to just the basics? We don't look to see can I sustainably and safely live there? No, we went on the ocean. But then you start seeing, just the last 2 weeks, massive collapsing of the entire shoreline hills falling right into the ocean or right into the beaches, and homes going with it, sliding right off. Multi-million-dollar homes, boom. Why would you buy a house or build a house where you know that one big storm, it could go? Why don't communities say, hold on a second, we've overdeveloped this, we've overexploited it? To the contrary, I used to live in South Beach, in Miami Beach. The South Beach is not Miami Beach, it's got its own little island there that extends up, and it's a beautiful place, wonderful people, just the most beautiful street in America, in my opinion, and Lincoln Road. It's just magnificent, beautiful trees and banyan trees, which are known in Florida, and concerts and venues of different types, and just people walking. There's no cars allowed. It's about 7 blocks long or so. I used to sit there and have a vegan meal and just enjoy the energy of the people. But then one day I noticed that when I was running in the beach in the morning, the sand at night, the high tide comes in. And then when it goes out in the morning, you get a line of seaweed. And it kept getting further and further and further into the, going up towards the buildings. Till one day it was actually this took about 5 years, but it got up to where it was the seaweed was actually going up to the buildings. Those buildings don't have security at the bottom. It's just sand with concrete pilings going down. So sooner or later, when all that water comes up, a certain amount of water goes down into the sand and begins that process of changing the foundational structure of the building. We saw a couple of years ago where a building collapsed because of loss of building and structure. Right now, probably half the buildings, going up and down Miami from the Keys clear up in Florida, would be considered unstable. But what do you know? More people are moving to the beaches in California, in Washington, in Oregon, in Florida, and around the Gulf of Mexico than ever before. We have about somewhere around 60 million Americans living in areas that are not sustainable. Beautiful, yes. I sold my place. I moved to a sustainable place. It was a hassle, yes. But I'm looking forward. I'm not just looking at my comfort today. I had that for 15 years. Then I said, time to move. Now, that was 11 years ago. Had I not sold it, my property today would be worth 3 times more. But I didn't care about what I would make if I kept the property. I cared about what would happen when the big storm came. And sure enough, big storms have come, lots of damage. But no matter how much damage is done through fires, from ultra dry areas to drought, where whole towns now have no water. They bring the water in trucks. What kind of quality of life is that? Where you're getting truck brought in water. Yet that's what's happening. There are 1,200 communities in Texas that are water insecure. So the question I have is, why is it that we're moving to the very places we should be moving away from? What are we missing? What in our cognitive awareness are we missing that, hey, friend, this might be a beautiful place, but it's not sustainable. And there's a big risk from hurricanes. Now, recently, I had a hurricane here. It was right up to a Category 5. It was 154 mile an hour winds. Category 5 is technically, I think, around 156. But in any case, 5 years ago, there was the same category hurricane that really hit out here where I'm at. But I'd prepared for it. I prepared, and I'll tell you what to do in a moment in preparing. So yeah, I had a lot of damages, and it took a year to clean everything up, to fix and repair everything, because if you have, let's say, 100,000 homes, and you've got 7 roofing companies, and if 50% of the roofs have been damaged, it's going to take 6 months to 9 months for a person even to come out and look at the damage, let alone another 6 months to fix it. And that's what we were faced with. But this time, the damage didn't occur out here. It lost some, shrubs and stuff, but nothing physical damage to the house. But boy, did they get creamed on the beach. I mean, every home for miles destroyed, or was so water soaked that mold is going to grow, and there's going to be a massive amount of money spent just to be able to live there again. But in the street, you had mounds of furniture. I mean, mounds of furniture. I had to zigzag in and out of the cars when I went down there. And all the trees, palm trees, were dead. All the grass was dead because the salt water came in the surge, 12-foot surge. And when salt water goes down into the grass, it kills it. The root system of trees, it kills it. So trees that have been there for 100 years, gone. Now, if you're rich, as the people down in Fort Royal are, they can buy new trees. Well, what's going to happen when it happens again? Next year. And will it? Yes. So why would you want to stay in harm's way? Now, I saw this, and I ask everyone. I got out of the car and I just walked at a certain point. And everyone was outside raking up debris or carrying debris out. And I said, why didn't you move your furniture up to the second floor? Well, we didn't think it'd be that bad. It wasn't that bad 5 years ago. I ask everyone, what did you do to prepare? Well, we didn't really prepare. We didn't think we'd need to. And I'm not talking about one or two people. I'm talking about everybody. So in America, we have a cognitive disconnect between what we want and whether or not it is good for us to have. It's like someone going to an all-you-can-eat buffet who's diabetic and overweight and suffering from high blood pressure and saying, wow, I can eat all this? Yeah, for $10, you can eat anything you want, as much as you want. Good. Let's just load up the plate. But buddy, what are you feeding? Well, what are you feeding? You're already overweight. You're feeding your disease process. You can't be in complete denial that what you're doing is harming yourself. But we are. Look at our children. They're being fed junk food. The adult is obese, the child is obese. The child will not frequently outlive the parent. So if you understand what I'm asking you to think of the bigger picture. What is it about so many people, about 93%, let me repeat that, 93% of Americans intentionally make wrong choices about their health or other issues on a daily basis. Not everybody, still 7% that don't make healthy choices, right choices. It takes about 15% of the people to make the right choice for everyone else who's made the wrong choice to shift the paradigm to a right choice. So that's where we begin our journey, because what's the good of me sharing information if you don't intend to apply it? There's no benefit. It's just a worthless exercise. So my hope is that you'll start to think deeper on issues, not be a part of the crowd, the mob, the consensus, which is almost always wrong. So here are just some samples of things you should do. Go back to what I began at the very beginning of this segment. The fact that in this moment when you wake up, you're okay. Your job is okay, your commute's okay, whatever you need, you've got. Now, what happens if suddenly it's not okay? What happens, for example, if at some point in this crazy war with Ukraine, which is really America's war to destroy Russia, what happens if there's a nuclear reality? What are you going to do then? What happens if there's no nuclear, but China or Russia or some combination decides to hit us with cyber warfare and knock out all of our electricity and our electrical grids? So suddenly you wake up in the morning, no matter what the temperature, cold or hot, you have no air conditioner or heating. You have no phone service, no cell phone service. Satellites are out. You have no street lights working. And if you have electrical car, good luck with that. Almost everything electrical is going to be failing. And that's not good. So that means that whatever food you've got in the refrigerator, when that finally thaws, that's it. So you rush to the store and you find that everyone else has been there before you. And as we've seen time and again, think of what happened with the pandemic. Shelves were empty, but worse off, supplies to get the material back in took forever. There are certain things that I've been waiting on for almost a year. It's a long delay now that we've never experienced like this before in getting back supplies. But imagine if an entire country was adversely affected, or even a major city like New York. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How are you going to survive? Can't buy anything because no one's going to have any electricity to open a store. None of the credit cards are going to work. None of the trains are going to work. None of the planes are going to work because their navigational systems are going to be gone. See, we don't think about that. Now, you don't have to have that cyber attack. Mind you, we have not had the big cyber attack yet. Can Russia or China inflict a cyber attack on it? You bet they can. But they have not done that yet. So shouldn't we be concerned about that and plan just in case, to have a plan B in our life? I believe we should. Think of all the people living in suburbia who have no idea that they should be protecting their home from damage. Here are some things you can do right now. When this last hurricane came a couple months ago here, my electricity was on 24/7. I went to all my neighbors who had no electricity. And I said, friend, if you need me to store any food for you, I have walk-in refrigerator. I can do that. Frozen stuff. I have extra freezer. Do you need a portable generator? I'll loan you one. No cost. I have extra generators that can, as long as you don't use too much electricity, keep your refrigeration on, your computer on, it's fine. And you just fill it up. Simple. It's not complicated. What happens when a storm hits? Your power goes out. What happens when the power goes out? Electricity goes down. No toilet, no shower. So what do? Solution. I built an inexpensively, a couple $1,000, that's all. I built a concrete wall around my water tank. I have a 500-gallon reverse osmosis water system, and all the electricity for it all was encased in an 8-foot high, 14-foot long, and 14-foot wide concrete wall. I use cinder blocks. You cut your element out, and then you put down concrete. Then you set your cinder blocks on that, your foundation, and then in the cinder blocks, they've got holes, and you put in rebar, and these are long metal rods, and then you put your concrete through that. So when it dries in about 3 days, it's really, really solid. Not a 200-mile-an-hour wind is not going to blow it over. And so therefore, no matter what's happening outside, I'm going to have my electricity, I'm going to have my water, and therefore I can survive. Simple things, backup generators, also a trailer. I remember once I was in California, and about 10 years ago, and I was doing a film outside of Los Angeles. And on the way up, we kept passing fires. And there was lots of fires going on then. And my driver said, just passing an area where I live. And I said, well, hold on a second. I saw fires that we just passed about 10 minutes ago. He said, well, it's blowing in that opposite direction. I'm not concerned. I said, no, we have a whole crew here. Let's go over to your house and we'll help you move out of your house. Any valuables you want to keep. And so I said, pull over side of the road. And I tried to discuss with him the value of taking the time. And he said, nothing's ever happened in my neighborhood. I'm going to be fine. He wasn't fine. On the way back, he saw when it shifted. So why doesn't everyone who own a home buy an inexpensive $800 to $1,500 trailer, simple trailer, right? You can buy them 10-foot, 12-foot, 18-foot, and you just keep it in your driveway, keep it in the garage, keep it beside the house. And if you need it, let's say you know that a hurricane's coming a week in advance, you're going to know. And if you're in harm's way, then take everything you value, it cannot be replaced, and you put it on your trailer, take all your papers and memorabilia, photographs, legal work, take artwork, anything, clothes, the stuff you need, and you load it up, You strap it on and you drive and get a place where you're going to drive to that'll take you out of harm's way. Here, I recommend friends to drive up to Alabama or to drive up to Georgia so they'd be out of harm's way. Even when I was on the radio syndicated in New Orleans with Katrina, we saw the hurricane coming. And so I told the listeners of my show, get a trailer, load up all your possessions, and drive northwest, because that's not the track of the storm. And also, once a hurricane hits shore, it diminishes substantially. You get rain, yes, but rain's not going to destroy you. You got your clothes and furniture, and you're out of there. And computers, you're out. And people didn't do that. Didn't do it. Remember all the signs, help us, and people had used an axe to break through their ceiling because the water came up in the lower Ninth Ward. 2,000 people died. And yet they had buses that people could have been driven out of harm's way in an hour, but weren't. I did a whole article on that called Waiting for Katrina. We wait on something to come as if, oh, this is a virtual game, we're going to watch it. Oh, it's coming, it's here. And then suddenly, what do? You shouldn't have to do that. So get a trailer. If you have a house in an area where there are fires, then just buy ladders and put the ladders on the side of the house, rent a garage. So if you need to get up on the roof, you can, and then put a sprinkler system across the top of the roof and down the sides. Why? You can't see it. It's not expensive. And you have a way of turning it on, simple. You can get a larger hose, like a 2 to 3 inch hose, because then if a fire is coming, you've got a large container of fire retardant foam. First you wet down the whole house, turn it on. Now your whole house is soaked on the outside, your roof, the sides, and then you put the fire retardant material on. And you also buy yourself, however many people you have and pets you have, you buy fire retardant suits. So you have them. So you're not going to burn to death. And then you have sprinkler systems in your lawn. So you wet down everything and you have fire retardant. And you take everything out on a trailer. Just get a hitch to the back of a truck or car, vehicle. Not expensive, not difficult, but you have to do it. All right. I remember growing up, and every uncle I had, a lot of uncles, I'd go into their garage and they had all the screws and bolts and implements on a wall and sprayed it with paint. So if anyone took it off to use it, they'd know where to put it back. But they had everything they needed, no matter what problem they faced. We don't do that today. We just sit and watch television, TikTok or something, and as if that's going to distract us while this is going on. No. Simple procedures for protecting yourself. So if you're in a hurricane area, make sure that you simply get a trailer and get out of the area. And also, when was the last time you checked your insurance policies? Because you know what's happening now. And I talked with people here and they said, yeah, we're not covered. We lost everything. We were covered for hurricane, but we weren't covered for a water damage. Really? So there's wind damage, hurricane damage, water damage, but it's what they exclude in the contracts. And the insurance companies are in business to make money for themselves. And so they deny full coverage or any coverage. I spoke with many people who said that they're broke. They didn't move out, they lost all their furniture, and the insurance didn't cover them. My damage here was substantial 5 years ago, and they sent me a check. But there was nothing on the check. It was just an amount. And then I did the calculation, figured they gave me 3% of what the damage was. 3%. I'm denied 97%. So I said no. So I went after him and I won. Took a half year, but I won. But you got to read read the insurance. Now insurance companies are fleeing Florida. So the majority of people are not even going to have insurance. Now, in Louisiana, a couple of years ago, there was a case where the people got hit by a storm but not on the beach so much, but inland and up through the state. It just went right up, and it was a slow storm, and it just soaked everyone. The worst type of rain they've ever had. Turns out that over 70,000 homes, more or less, were water damaged. Trouble is they had no insurance for water damage. So they lost their homes, or their homes became a growth medium in Louisiana with the heat and humidity, not all that flooding, or mold. And then the homes were condemned by the tens of thousands. So then working class people or poor people now didn't even have a home. Had they had the full insurance or the right insurance, they could have, helped themselves. So I'm just suggesting be prepared. And what's the most important thing I believe is going to happen? We're going to have a food shortage. When I get up early in the morning, I look at different areas of the world. I look to see how many food insecure migrants we have in Africa. Where are they going? They have no money. They have no transportation. They're dirt poor. And yet there's over 10 million of them. And so we have problems that we haven't even anticipated how to help these people with solutions. So my suggestion is look at every part of your life. And what's the one thing you need? You need food and water. Okay. You get your food from stores. Why not start growing sprouts on your kitchen table? Or if you have a garage, or if you have an attic, or if you have an extra bedroom, grow. You can grow an enormous amount in what are called tower hydroponics. Tower hydroponics, it's a tower. You can get it at different levels. You can keep adding, going up to 20 feet if you want. But let's just say you have a room that you're not using. So you put in tower there, and it's automatic. It feeds water in, feeds nutrients in, and you get the wonderful vegetables and fruits. You can grow blueberries and raspberries and strawberries, and you can grow almost every kind of vegetable. Now, if you got room in your backyard, you can just put a simple, inexpensive plastic canopy over it, and you can grow melons and gourds and squash, potatoes, onions. You can grow it all. I do that. I teach organic gardening. I've been a certified organic farmer, and I've written books on organic farming. I had the first organic farming teaching homestead upstate New York. Wasn't a homestead, but it was my 50-acre farm, and people would come up on the weekends and learn how to till the ground and build the soil up and how to grow things, how to protect it, and then dry it. You could get yourself a home food dryer, or you could get yourself a freeze-dried, a little more expensive, but that way you can take a case, you can buy a case of organic apples, and you can make yourself meals and just put this in there, and overnight, after about 33 hours, boom, it's good and protected and tasty and nutrient rich for the next 25 to 30 years. So what are the foods you like best, and what are the foods that are healthiest for you? Those are the ones that you go ahead and you prepare them, simple to prepare. And then you put it in this bag. You put the bag in this dehydrator and turn it on, and boom, it does it. Rings over, out, store it. We should be doing that, because I believe that those people called preppers that everyone mocked and ridiculed, well, look at how stupid they are. They weren't stupid. They were planning ahead. And you want to know who's really on top of this? The very rich. The very rich. They are moving down to New Zealand, or they're going out into Kansas and Utah and other places, and they're taking over these old silos from the Cold War that have been rehabilitated into multi-million-dollar homes, 8 stories down, some of them, and every story has something to swimming pools, all self-contained. And in one area, they have, I believe, 400. Yeah, all purchased already. So these rich people have a plan B. Something happens in New York, can't live here, or it's gotten too risky. Boom, I got a place to go to. Me and my family can survive. That's what they're saying. So why don't we pay attention to what they're doing and say, can we do something on a little different scale, one that we can afford, like growing your own food or buying food and then freeze drying it. So when you freeze dry the food, it contains keeps about 97% of its nutrient, and taste is perfect. Now I do freeze drying, And that's different than just dehydrating. Dehydrating will last about 2 to 3, 4 years, but freeze drying will last 25 years or more. And so do it now. So when the day comes, and I believe it's in the next 2 years, when we're having serious challenges, even if you now live in what you consider a perfect area, you'll have a plan B to survive. Take the nutrients you need, again, and you can freeze dry them. Vitamin C. Vitamin C increased 300% in its cost. 300%. So there's going to come a time where people cannot afford a lot of the things they take for granted now. Food's going to be too expensive. Look at eggs now. I'm a vegan, but people who eat eggs, look at how much more you're going to pay since the third largest egg farm in America up in Connecticut burned down over the weekend. So we have to plan for what could go wrong. And the best thing to do is plan for your health. So if you're eating a right diet, if you're exercising, if you're de-stressing, and if you're engaging in happy things, things that are joyful relationships with your pets, and feed your pet consciously. Lots of raw food, lots of the healthy oils. My dogs, I had 2, one lived 24, one 22, and they were both killed in accidents by someone who was stupid. But they were just as frisky at 24. She would have probably been the oldest living dog in America. I had a ringtail lemur that I rescued back in 1988, and she lived to be 33, and then she died because, again, someone stupid that worked for me put some rat poison out that shouldn't have. I wasn't here. She was 33. They normally live 16 years. I doubled that lifespan, just as healthy as can be. So if you understand your cat, your dog, your pet can live a longer life, probably twice as long as you would imagine, if you're conscious, just getting some food off a shelf and kibble and some canned food. That's not how it goes. And I've written a book on this. It's out of print now, Natural Pet Care. But my video is still up on it also shows you how you can help your pet, but you should help yourself. What better way of being able to live in the future and now without disease or worrying about a stroke, because you're taking your blood pressure, you're taking your pulse rate, you're getting your pulse rate down, which is what you want. You're getting your blood pressure normal. You're seeing that your blood flow is normal, because when you're stressed, you can create an irregular electric charge to the heart and not even know it. You could have heart irregularities like AFib, arrhythmias, that can kill you. So be conscious. The fact that you can eat something doesn't mean you should. The fact you can eat all you want doesn't mean you should. The fact you don't have to exercise today doesn't mean you shouldn't. All right? We talk about junk food destroying our body. Junk media destroys our mind. Junk belief system destroys our values. So you can prepare for hurricanes. You can prepare for fires. You can prepare for not living in the wrong place by looking at all the wonderful places in this country. And I have them all up on a webinar. Go to GaryNull.com and look at the webinars. I've done 3 webinars on how to survive almost any crisis, including electromagnetic pulses coming off the sun. Yeah, because we're into chaos theory in our country. Think of the things we have, the foolish policies affecting our relationship with Russia and the world. And that's not good. The military industrial complex, they make out, but we live in a tenuous world because of that. We're not sending peacekeepers into the world. We're not sending ambassadors of peace. We're sending the world the message that we're still engaged in hegemonic practices, and we're engaged in a neocon philosophy. We control the world. We're the police of the world. Don't judge us, or we'll arrest you. This is the world we live in. Now you got all these media platforms that are censoring the truth. So where are you going to get the truth? You can wake up in the morning, I feel pretty good day. I turn on and I say, oh, well, they're telling me not to believe this person, not to believe that person, shun that person, disgraced, and that person. It's all political. It's not the truth. So when did you look for the truth beyond what you were told is the truth? That's your responsibility. When did you decide to make yourself stronger instead of becoming weaker, wiser instead of foolish? in your choices. You can't change until you decide to change your perspective. Your perspective is going to change your reality. If I change my perspective, I can change my reality. And that's what we need. So no matter where you live, there's still risks. Right now, I have someone that just wrote me, I've lived in San Francisco my whole life. It's been a wonderful city. I would agree. But now it's not. Crime is an example of what happens when we engage in hubris or withdraw from being an active participant in making positive change. Look at San Francisco. Look at Los Angeles. Look at New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. Throughout the country, there's a rise in crime of every type, things we never saw before, which now means that we still have people, good people, living in wonderful cities. They can still go to a Broadway play. In Los Angeles, you can go out and dine at outstanding restaurants. You can go to a concert at the Greek Theater. But now there are gangs that will look at the car you're driving and follow you home and know that you're a person that has enough resources that they are going to burglarize, kidnap, and if need be, kill you. Never had that happen before. Now you can go to a Broadway show, but you can't take public transportation without some concern because you've seen so many people who've had these wanton slashings and stabbings and pushing people onto the subway tracks. So you're all living in the same environment. It's just there's an element in that environment now. A lot of mental illness, a lot of addictive behavior, and also opportunists who realize that not a whole lot's going to happen to them no matter what crime they commit. So they're going to commit a crime. One person was arrested after 100 thefts. Small businesses, that's the heart and soul of a neighborhood. Without them, the neighborhood dies. The real estate value collapses and quality of life diminishes. On the Upper West Side, where I've lived also, people used to think nothing of going out with their children, going to Riverside Park, going to Central Park, taking their time dining. Not now, because there's so much violence. Because stealing out of a store, shoplifting, is no longer considered a crime. In San Francisco, you can steal up to $950. So gangs control Los Angeles. Every one of those encampments you see, every tent, every person living on the street with a shopping cart in their possession, they all have to pay tribute to the gangs. They have to pay money. So in San Francisco, they'll give you a cart and they give you a list. Go in the store and buy this stuff. They'll even go in with you. Here are the things you put in the bag. You put it in the cart. It's $940. The store can't stop you. The security can't stop you. If you touch a person or the cart they're with, leaving a store, you, the store owner or employee, can be arrested. They go outside. They're given another empty cart and then go into this. They can do this all day long. Empty out a store. Close the store down. Any thought about the store owners? None. So now when you used to walk down the street to go to your favorite Starbucks or wherever you went, now there's a whole bunch of people who no longer want to be there because it's no longer quality of life. So you see, when you do nothing, when you engage in hubris, then everything that you should have done is to the advantage of those who are exploiting you, the predator, whether it's a government predator, a corporate predator, or street predator or gang. They're going to take advantage of you doing nothing. And right now, the vast majority of Americans are doing nothing about anything. There are probably, I'm going to guess, probably about 20 to 30 million Americans living in different types of gated or secure communities around the United States. And therefore, they get up every morning and their 2,000 or 3,000 homes, beautiful homes with, water and golf course and tennis and, they're okay because they have armed security and gangs are not getting in there. So they have quality of life. So they're living in these little insulated green zones. 10 years ago, I predicted within 10 years, America will be divided into two countries, those who are wealthy enough and secure enough to have quality of life in a limited area because they have protection. But outside of that area, you're in Mad Maxville. Well, we're there. It's happening right now. The average person is not committing crimes. The average person is a conscientious, decent human being, and older people in particular. But now, what do you do when you're an older person and you're afraid to go to the bank because two of your friends that went to the bank were robbed and nothing happened? So you have to order in everything, the loneliness factor. So prepare now for where the best place is for you to live, where it's safe, where there's decent people, quality of life, because that's what you should do, because the society itself will not change. No institution is going to give up the power they have, nor the money they're making, nor the destruction that's happening. They'll make excuses for it. They'll make it all political. Well, it's your race or your economic status. You're doing all this. No, it's gross neglect, individual neglect, corporate neglect, government neglect that is causing this. And that's not going to change anywhere. But you can change if you choose to. You can turn off the computer. You can put down the cell phone. Oh, and by the way, that cell phone, no matter what the cell phone company tells you was the ethical manner in which that cobalt was mined and nickel was mined, there's a film out. I just saw it last night on Joe Rogan, where a person went into the cobalt mine, just one of the cobalt mines in the Congo, and everyone was digging by hand. 15,000 individuals were being used as slave labor so you could have your electronic gadgets. Now you can say, not my problem. I just care about the use of it. But remember, if you don't care about 15,000 people living under slavery, including young kids, then that says a lot about you and your character. So where is the demonstrations against this? Artificial intelligence, transhumanism, automation is taking away your jobs. So your hubris, while you're sitting there not considering the consequences to you, others are realizing because you haven't spoken up, maybe you don't have the courage to or interest to. So they'll exploit it. Watch how many jobs now that people were trained in college or university are gone. Massive, massive amounts. And it's going to only increase. So we will primarily become a service-oriented society where everything is done for us, but we have to acquiesce. Remember that what they said, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, you will have nothing, you will own nothing, and you'll be happy. No, the average American won't be happy. They worked hard. They lived an honorable, ethical life. They deserve what they have. But not Klaus Schwab, not the powerful elite, not the BlackRock, not all these people that have so much control. They want to control you. Now think about that for a moment. They don't want you to have cash, so they're going to digital currency. They don't want you to be able to travel, so they're now in Oxford, England. They have what is called the 15-mile zone, where you should be able to do everything in a day within 15 miles of your home. And if you decide to go beyond 15 miles, you're going to be penalized. You can only go so far, and then they start to fine you. What do you mean? I can't just go out in my car and go for a ride? You can within 15 miles. Beyond that, you can't. So, excuse me, it's not 15 miles, 15 minutes. So this is what's going on in the world today. People have seen our indifference, our apathy, our loss of focus upon what is essential and important in life, and they're exploiting you. So I'm just trying to show you all the different segments that are impacting what you can do about it, because they're wonderful places to move to. I have a whole list up on GaryNull.com of under the webinar, Best Places to Live in America. It was, I think, a 6.5-hour webinar I did on just that topic. So we've done all the homework for you, but we are not you. We can provide you with the tools, but you have to decide you want to use them. In conclusion, we are in a rough patch of life now. I do not see it getting better. I'm not being fatalistic or negative. I'm being honest. I believe it's time for all of us to find our voices, to find our courage, to find that which motivates us to regain our sense of individual capacity for critical thinking and say, where should I be living? What should I be doing? Where are the safest places to live? What can I do to stop being on their grid? reading their newspapers, watching their news stories, listening to their biased propaganda nonstop. How can I stop giving away my rights over the sanctity of my mind and my body? Now's the time. I'm only providing the tools and the insight. I can tell you about the tipping points. I can tell you about not living near the ocean. And I can tell you about not living in the high deserts. I can tell you about not living where there's no water, where there's going to be permanent drought throughout your whole life. I can tell you about eating a bad diet and the consequences, the heart disease, obesity, diabetes, dementia. I can tell you about not spending money you don't have because of credit, living in perpetual debt. I can tell you about not going to university before you can prove that that university is providing you with something that will not be in competition with artificial intelligence, automation, and transhumanism. I can tell you about how to deal with people as human beings instead of objects. I can tell you that we're not a bad people, we're good people, but we're doing the work of bad people. I can tell you how to get off the grid. I can tell you how to live more independently and quality of life improvement. I can tell you how to find happiness within yourself and live an ethical, decent, moral life. I can't make that choice. It's your choice to use any of these tools you've been provided with. Go to GaryNull.com, or you can go to Rumble, or you can go to Odysee, and you will see a series of self-empowerment videos, somewhere between 80 and 100. They're free. Download them, and it will help you find the courage, I believe, to start empowering yourself. You see, I see the good in people. I see a young generation that has been dealt a bad hand. I see people who've been raised in bubbles. I see small groups of people who feel entitled to excesses and everything and contributing nothing except their victimhood. And I see others who say, I'm not a victim. I'm going to exceed any limitation that is placed in front of me. I see people working together collectively. So I see the potential that we have. I do not see anything good coming from any of the institutions we've trusted or the individuals who are their spokesperson. I don't see any governmental agency stopping, just becoming a spreading cancer and spending money, our money, on things that do not benefit us. I do not see the de-ghettoization of America. I do not see caring for all the homeless people. I do not see having homes and a support system for the 2.5 million homeless children. I do not see anything happening to change the life of people in the streets of America. And not everyone on the street is a drug addict or mentally ill. The vast majority that you haven't seen who are couch surfing or living in cars or vans once had a home, once had stability. Not now. I do not see any of these things changing because I see that those who are controlling everything no longer live amongst us. They no longer care about who you are, the dynamics of your thought process, what you have to go through each day. I see them exploiting your diseases. I see them exploiting your mental states and your depression and anxiety, saying, take this drug, take this drug, take this drug. Oh, and by the way, if you have to put a gun in your mouth, blow your brains out, like 21 servicemen do every day, that's just the way it is. Had nothing to do with the drugs you were taking. Yeah, but it does. Well, there's no non-medical solution for anything in life, is there? Everything's medical. Everything's technical. You're just a robot in their mind. There's no spirit there. Yeah, there is. So you got to pull yourself off their system. You got to unplug it to plug into gaining new knowledge, new strength of character, new determination. And there's a lot of people waiting for you out there. You won't be alone. I'm Gary Null. Thank you for taking the time to watch our classroom on the air. Have a nice day.
Closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.